r/AskReddit. What's the easiest way to die accidentally? Don't evacuate when you live in a mobile home directly in the path of a Category 4 hurricane. Just saw a young mother and her toddler on the news saying they weren't going to evacuate because PFFFTTY. I'm from Florida. Just sad. I helped out in Louisiana after Katrina, and I came to the realization that people down there treat hurricanes like Ohioans treat blizzards. You don't believe the news. The news lies. They always lie. Every single flurry is a storm of the century and anyone who tries to go outside will be dead. But sometimes the news doesn't lie. But you don't realize this because they've lost any credibility. Edit. For clarification, I live in Ohio and am subject to lake effect snow, which can be dangerous. The problem is that local news will treat all storms with Snowmageddon of the century. You will die if you step foot outside. Drowning. It is extremely easy to underestimate undertow or current strength. In case anyone read this, swim parallel to the beach, it could save your life. Also, don't panic. That will make you more tired. If being pulled under/out, let it take you, because the next rolling wave will let you get air. Just float face down and someone will come get you. Any simple mistake while driving could potentially be fatal. People constantly underestimate how dangerous driving is because it's something they do every day. I never understood how people could be so stupid and text while they haul 2 tons of metal down a highway at 60+ miles per hour. Every second they look away, they drive about 30 meters blind. It's sick. Driving is commonplace. Roads themselves, especially highways, have been designed with a great deal of educated, rigorous, and mathematical thought so that they are as navigable and stupid-proofed as possible. For example, road grades and the curvature of them have been designed to accommodate the least competent expected driver. A tire drunk, for example. This makes driving feel near effortless to the rested, sober, and competent driver. The human mind begins to tune out that which happens repeatedly without incident, like the sound of a nearby river, or the rote task of commuting, as unnecessary information. The countless tiny corrections and judgments made in the act of driving become unconscious over time, and almost seem to not be happening. Driving is boring. All of this combines to encourage the illusion that the car kinda sorta drives itself, and that one has more than enough leeway to engage in a bit of light multitasking, or even watch a movie with one eye, so to speak, while driving with the other. A certain amount of blame must be placed on all those people who have come to demand that text conversations be as immediate as voice calls. There are an awful lot of people who would actually get mad if you waited a half hour to return a text. Duck them. The driver does not feel they have the luxury of waiting. A simple text, like "I'll be there in 10 minutes", does not at all seem like an imposition upon the act of driving, because you don't realize how much effort you are actually putting into driving, since it has become so unconscious and automatic to you. In reality, you are using every part of your mind and senses to some degree or another in order to pilot the car. You just don't realize it until you start trying to operate an entirely different bit of technology, thus leaving the car unpiloted for however long you look at your phone. We used to have a similar problem with people ducking with the stereo while they drive. We still do. Only now it's worse. So, now you understand. That's how they can be so stupid. Accidentally entering a suicide booth trying to make a simple phone call. Man, I hate when that happens. 2/10 would not recommend. Replacing your garage door spring without the proper expertise. Hahaha. Yes. Ducking seems so simple, right? It's just a spring, they said. Those duckers are lethal. Edit. If I could upvote again, I would. I've never been as upset at an inanimate object as I was at a garage door spring. Please explain. My dad is about to embark on this quest with me, and I would love to know how it's going to go wrong in advance. Your life insurance doesn't pay out for suicide? Pays double if you die in an accident. Lose an arm, it's $1,000. Lose both, it's twice as much. And if you should die, well, bless your luck, cause you'll just be raking in the cash. By the numbers. Overeating. I mean, you don't intend it to be fatal, do you? Talk for yourself. I eat to kill. I admire that in a person. Eating something you didn't know you were deathly allergic to. A funnel web spider for example. Funnel web spiders often fall in swimming pools and can survive in there for several hours. Imagine diving into a pool and by 1,000,000 to 1 shot getting one in your mouth. Crossing the streets at night while wearing dark clothing on the freeway. Have a mother that drinks too much during your pregnancy. You're a little late to the party on that one though. I know a girl with an alcohol and smoking problem who was pregnant at 15. Teenage pregnancy from a guy she ducked. Condom ripped. Which she didn't notice until it was legally too late for an abortion. When she went to her doctor, he advised her to keep her habits as the child was basically already dead. So she kept drinking. Let her child die inside of her and gave a stillbirth. Don't ask me how I know her. I bet that was one of those nights for the doctor where, no matter how much he showered and scrubbed, he wouldn't feel clean. Taking too much Tylenol is pretty easy. It will kill you in an awful way and barely anyone realizes that. This is paracetamol for any UK peeps. Interesting. Is American Tylenol stronger than our paracetamol? Just wondering because my mate took a bunch in a suicide attempt and stabbed himself and he was fine. Well, physically I guess. Edit, remove number. Thanks you /B4B. Static electricity setting of your bomb vest too early. I remember a news story where a spam text message set off a terrorist's IED while he was carrying it to the intended target. Someone else was in a similar situation. She planned to bomb during New Year's and she got a text that said Happy New Year before the IED exploded and killed her and only her. Maybe some ploy by the anti-terrorism groups around the world. Not exactly sure. Having fun spraying your buddies with gasoline while dancing, then somebody lights a cigarette. Gasoline fight. Not looking both ways while crossing the street. It happened to my uncle. Poor bastard didn't look both ways and he got struck by lightning. WH, who was driving the lightning? Metallica was riding it. It depends how stupid you are. You could leave the gas on stove on in the kitchen. Use a fork to get your toast out the toaster. Cross a road without looking. Who the duck cooks gas on the stove? Some of us like to live dangerously. Carelessly working with electricity. I try to be as safe as I can at work. But there are times when something fails just right and it can still get you. I got really lucky one day under someone's house. When the disconnect for their air handler failed just right and resulted in the disconnect box itself being energized with 120 V. It wasn't grounded and didn't trip the breaker until I went to stick my flashlight to it. And I became part of the circuit. Oh. And breakers don't always open properly either. Edit O. Another one. That's stupid easy to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. And since it's getting to be heating season where most of us live, please take the time this weekend to check your co-detectors. Check the date of manufacture. It should be fairly easy to find somewhere on the detector. Usually you have to remove it from its base to find it. Don't get lazy or be afraid to break it. Make sure it's within 5 years. If not, get a new one. Some types of detectors are good for 5-10 years. But it's best to fail safe and replace them every 5. One outside of bedrooms. One near the entrance to an attached garage. And one in otherwise heavily occupied rooms. Like a living room. At least. I almost died of carbon monoxide poisoning late last winter. Had some food in the hitty old oven in my apartment with the windows closed, but it was off already. I was falling asleep and it went off. I opened all the windows and had the ceiling fan going. All you have to do is die once and you'll never come back. Pretty freaky. For the future, GTFO. Don't open windows. Get out. Carbon monoxide accumulates in your bloodstream. That means even with ventilation. As long as there is a source of CO, you can still die. CO is deadly because it binds to the iron in your blood more readily than O2. Which means your blood will be transporting CO around your body instead of oxygen. And your cells can't use it. I almost choked on a cupcake. Tried so swallow it whole during a speed eating contest. It turned into a cake cork and I gave myself the hemorrhage. Cupcake came back up, landed on the floor frosting side up, and looked good as new. Easily the most embarrassing moment of my life. Deep throating a cupcake as a cause of death would certainly make for some good stories at family get-togethers. Though. Texting while driving. We should be allowed to tag people's cars with paintballs when they are texting while moving. At stoplights is one thing. But come the duck on, you're operating a machine. With you in it. At speed. Using usually 3 out of 4 of your appendages. That's a lot of brain power devoted to one task. And you want to duck around on a phone. It's an embarrassing way to get into an accident and potentially die. But if someone insists, then they deserve it. It's worse if someone else dies through your duck up. I died in my shower last night. I was so sleepy that I fell asleep and I eventually drowned. Don't take a shower while you're tired. Kids, you'll die. Get better soon, PLS. 3 missed calls from mom. I have had 16 missed call and 5 voicemails from my mom once. You dead. Trying to zigzag your car through the railroad crossing after the gates come down and the train is approaching at full speed. Yeah. Way too easy. Aspiration. Breathing vomit into your lungs is bad. Or so they say. Happens to drunk people more than we think. BTW. LPT on that. If you are ever at a party where someone is passed out drunk/high and people want to put him in bed, grab a backpack, fill it with clothes or whatever and strap that itch on their back. No way they're gonna roll over and die and ruin the party for everyone. Awesome advice. Lifting the bench press alone. If you make it too heavy for you, like 30 kgs over or something, and drop it, you're dead. It'll hit your neck, and in that position it's hard to take it off. I bench press alone all the time. If you can't press the weight up, it's not a big deal to let it back down on your chest. From there, you can roll it down to the waist and you're fine. You don't want to bench press and roll it up on your neck. Selfies on edges of high places. Loads die at the Grand Canyon every year. I'm a police officer and I recently had to go to a mortuary to ID a guy who died from a fatal road traffic accident. Whilst I was waiting for the post-mortem to start, I sat and had a chat with the mortuary technician, and he told me about a guy who'd been out shopping with his small son. It was dark. He was a black guy, wearing dark clothing. For some reason that now escapes me, he'd briefly left the store whilst his son was still inside and had gone outside. Whilst outside he tripped and fell into the road. Unfortunately, this was at the same time that a huge lorry was coming down the street and it ran over his head, killing him instantly. The lorry driver didn't even realize what had happened because of the time of day and the dark clothes the guy was wearing, etc. He thought he'd run over a bin bag and carried on his way. When he got to his next stop, police arrived and had to break the news to him that he'd not only killed a man, but had been driving around leaving a mess of the man's brains as he went. Needless to say, this story messed me up for a while after hearing it. He had a couple of similar stories of people tripping into the road and dying. We are really fragile. Guys. Edit. Spelling. Always soling. Alcohol poisoning. Playing Pokemon Go or riding a Segway near a cliff. It's how grams went. Family curse. I'm afraid. Walking on train tracks. Not a common way to die, but easy. I always used to snort when someone was hit by a train. Because I thought, what? They didn't hear it? Feel the vibrations? See the light approaching from behind? Until I was caught in a situation where I had to walk on train tracks to get to a hiking trail with thick sagebrush on either side. I had no option but to walk about a football field's length down the tracks. Thankfully, friends had reached the trail ahead of me, and I could hear them yelling something with increasing urgency until someone must have busted their vocal cords screaming train. I didn't have a clue. Looked behind me, and there was a locomotive barreling toward me. I leapt off the tracks into the brush, and it flew past about 5 seconds later. When it goes past, that's when you hear the roar of the engine. It's deafening from the side, but seriously next to silent oncoming. I wasn't drunk, on drugs or anything, but I still get the shivers when I think of how close I came to being one of those people in the paper that everyone shakes their head at, wondering how they cold been so clueless. Was in a train when a guy got hit. Seen him ragdoll past my window. Not a pretty sight. You're lucky. Ducking, like and subscribe.
Reddit.